Pain hit me before my eyes even opened. A sharp burning line ran across my wrist, like someone had drawn a wire under my skin and lit it on fire. I sat up fast, gasping, and my hands slammed into cold metal instead of my bedroom wall. This was not my room. The ceiling above me glowed a soft blue, humming faintly, and the air smelled like metal and something sweet, almost like burnt sugar. I looked down at my wrist and froze. A glowing mark curled around it, shaped like a spiral with 3 small dots inside, pulsing gently in rhythm with my own heartbeat. I was Daniel Hargrove, 29 years old, a cargo pilot who flew supply routes between orbital stations for a living. Nothing about my life had prepared me for waking up in a room built from curved silver walls, wearing clothes that were not mine, with a mark on my skin that felt like it belonged to my body more than my own fingerprints did. The door hissed open before I could even stand. 2 tall figures stepped in. Their skin had a faint gray-blue tone, their eyes were larger than a human's, and their movements were smooth, almost too smooth, like they had rehearsed walking instead of learning it naturally. They wore long robes lined with silver thread, and both of them stopped the moment they saw me sitting up. One of them, the shorter of the two, spoke first. Her voice came out clear and translated instantly through some device I couldn't see. "He is awake. Inform the chamber." The taller one turned and left immediately, robes sweeping behind him. "Where am I?" I asked, my voice cracking. The woman studied me for a long moment before answering. "You are aboard the Vantiri flagship. You are safe. But I must warn you, Daniel Hargrove, your life has changed in ways you are not prepared for. How do you know my name? Because the mark on your wrist knows it. That mark is a bonding sigil. It does not activate unless a match is confirmed by blood, mind, and resonance." She paused, watching my confusion turn into panic. "You have been bonded. You are married." I laughed, the kind of laugh that comes out when your brain refuses to accept what your ears just heard. "I think you have the wrong guy." "There is no wrong. The resonance chamber does not make mistakes." Her tone was calm, almost gentle, like she was trying to soften a blow she knew would land hard anyway. "You are bonded to Sarah Vantiri Kalo, heir to the throne of the Kalo Dominion." My stomach dropped. I didn't agree to any of this. Agreement was never required. The right of union has existed for 400 cycles. When resonance is found between 2 beings during a diplomatic exchange, the bond forms automatically, without consultation, without ceremony beforehand. It is law older than any personal choice. I stood up so fast, the room spun for a second. "So, somebody just decided my life for me?" "The universe decided," she said simply. "Not us." Before I could argue further, the door opened again, and this time, a different figure walked in. She was taller than the 2 attendants, her posture rigid, her eyes sharp and clearly furious. Her robes were a deep violet, marked with gold patterns that looked like lightning frozen in place, and on her wrist, glowing the exact same shade as mine, was the matching spiral mark. She looked at me the way someone looks at a stain they just noticed on an expensive rug. "So this is the human," she said, her voice cold, controlled, but simmering underneath. "This is who fate has decided I must be bonded to." "And you must be the princess," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, even though my heart was pounding. "Sarah, right? You will address me properly," she snapped. "I don't even know what proper is here," I said. "Nobody exactly gave me a manual before waking me up married." Something flickered across her face. Maybe surprise, maybe annoyance, I couldn't tell yet. "You speak boldly for someone who has no standing in this court." "I speak like someone who just found out his whole life got rearranged without his permission," I said. "So excuse me if I'm not bowing yet." The attendant who had been speaking to me stepped back slightly, clearly uncomfortable with the tension crackling between us. Sarah crossed her arms and studied me for a long moment, before speaking again, quieter this time. "You understand this bond cannot be undone, not by you, not by me, not by my father who rules this dominion, nor by your Earth government, wherever they currently believe you to be." "They probably think I'm still flying my cargo route," I muttered. "They will be informed shortly," she said, "because this bond is not just personal, it is now political. Your presence here confirms a treaty between your species and mine. If this bond breaks, the treaty breaks with it." I stared at her. So this isn't really about us. It's about diplomacy. It was never about us, she said, her voice sharpening. It is about survival. My dominion is being watched by rivals who would love nothing more than an excuse to call this alliance false and use it as justification for war. That word landed heavy in the room. War. So if we don't act married, I said slowly, people might actually start fighting because of it? Precisely, she said. Which is why, whether either of us likes it or not, we must convince the court that this bond is real, strong, and worthy of respect. I ran a hand through my hair, still trying to process everything. 12 hours ago, I had been checking fuel levels on my ship. Now I was standing in an alien palace, tied by law to a woman who clearly wanted nothing to do with me, and somehow responsible for keeping two civilizations from going to war. All right, I said finally. Where do we start? Sarah looked mildly surprised by how quickly I shifted from disbelief to acceptance. You are not fighting this? Fighting it sounds like a losing game, I said. I'd rather understand it and figure out how to survive it. For the first time, something like respect crossed her expression, quick and quiet, before she hit it again. Then you will need to learn our customs immediately, she said. The court gathers within the hour. They will test you. Some will try to trip you into embarrassment. Others may try something worse. Worse how? There are nobles who see this treaty as a threat to their own influence. They would prefer you disappear quietly before the bond can be publicly confirmed. That got my attention fast. Are you saying someone might try to kill me? I am saying you should be careful, she said, which honestly did not make me feel better at all. The attendant returned with new garments, deep blue instead of the plain white I had woken up in, and helped me change while explaining basic court customs. Never speak before being addressed by rank, never touch royal artifacts, never look directly at the chamber elders unless invited to. I broke basically every one of those rules within the first 10 minutes of entering the grand hall. The chamber was massive, circular, with rows of alien nobles seated on raised platforms that curved around a central floor. Sarah walked beside me, chin high, posture perfect, while I tried to copy her stride and mostly just avoided tripping over my own borrowed robes. An elder with pale silver eyes rose first. Human, do you understand the weight of what you carry? Before I could stop myself, I answered honestly instead of formally. Not fully, but I understand that a lot of people are counting on me not messing this up. A ripple of murmurs spread through the chamber. Some nobles looked amused, others clearly offended by my lack of formality. Another noble, sharper featured, leaned forward with a thin smile. Perhaps the human should demonstrate his worth through the trial of clarity, rather than mere words. Sarah's jaw tightened beside me. That trial has not been required in 3 generations. Then it is due, the noble said smoothly. I leaned toward Sarah. What exactly is the trial of clarity? A test of judgment, she whispered back. They present a conflict with no correct answer, only difficult ones. It is designed to expose weakness. Great, I muttered. Love those. The elder gestured, and a floating screen appeared above the chamber floor, showing 2 ships locked in combat near a shared trade route. One Vantiri, one belonging to a rival faction called the Threll. A situation from 3 cycles past, the elder explained. The Vantiri vessel could retreat, saving its crew, but abandoning valuable resources needed by struggling colonies. Or it could fight, risking lives, but securing supplies for thousands. Tell us, human, what would you choose? I looked at the frozen image, my mind racing. This wasn't really about ships. It was about proving I could think like they expected royalty to think. Calculated, cold, strategic. But that wasn't who I was. I wouldn't choose either option as presented, I said. The chamber went quiet. Explain, the elder said, clearly not expecting that answer. You're asking me to pick between losing lives or losing resources, like those are the only 2 paths. But real situations aren't that simple. I'd ask why the ship was alone in the first place. I'd ask if reinforcements were close enough to change the outcome. I'd look for a third option, instead of accepting the trap of only 2 bad ones. Sarah turned her head slightly toward me, her expression unreadable but focused. The elder studied me for a long moment. And if no third option exists? Then I'd choose the lives, I said firmly. Resources can be replaced. People can't. Silence stretched through the chamber, thick and heavy, until finally, the elder gave a slow nod, an answer rooted in emotion rather than logic, unusual for this trial. Maybe that's the point, I said. Maybe logic alone is what got that ship stuck with only 2 bad choices in the first place. A few nobles exchanged glances, some clearly annoyed, others intrigued. Sarah said nothing, but I noticed her posture had relaxed just slightly. The trial ended shortly after, but the tension in the room didn't. As we exited the chamber, one of the sharper-featured nobles fell into step beside us, his voice low. Interesting performance, human, though performances rarely survive contact with reality. Is that a threat? I asked bluntly. A warning, he said smoothly. Bonds can be broken through more than words. He gave a slight bow to Sarah and walked away before either of us could respond. That was Counselor Vex, Sarah said once he was gone. He leads the faction most opposed to this alliance. He has resources, allies, and patience. Watch him carefully. Noted, I said. Anyone else I should be worried about? Almost everyone, she said dryly, and for the first time since I had woken up, I saw something close to a smile tug at the corner of her mouth. Over the following hours, we were pulled through introductions, ceremonies, and quiet conversations layered with hidden meaning. Every noble seemed to be testing me in their own way, some through questions, some through silence, waiting to see if I would fill it nervously. I didn't. Years of flying cargo through unpredictable routes had taught me patience under pressure, and it turned out that skill translated surprisingly well into surviving an alien court. Late into what I assumed was their version of evening, Sarah and I finally found a quiet balcony overlooking a vast city built into floating platforms connected by streams of light. The view was breathtaking, but neither of us spoke about it. You handled today better than I expected, she admitted, arms resting on the railing. Low expectations help, I said. She almost laughed, catching herself halfway. I did not want this bond, Daniel Hargrove. Yeah, I got that impression. But I did not expect someone who thinks the way you do, she continued. Most of my kind are raised to follow structure. You seem to create your own, even when none exists. That's just called making it up as you go, I said. Works more often than people think. She turned to look at me directly for the first time, without anger clouding her expression. Counselor Vex will not stop testing you. If he finds a weakness, he will use it to argue the bond is unstable, and use that instability as justification to dissolve the treaty entirely. Then we don't give him a weakness to find. It is not that simple. Nothing about today has been simple, I said. But I didn't ask for any of this, and neither did you. Doesn't mean we can't figure out how to survive it together, instead of resenting each other over something neither of us controlled. She studied me for a long moment, something shifting behind her eyes. You speak as though partnership is simple. It's not, I admitted. But it's better than fighting alone. Before she could respond, an alarm pulsed softly through the palace, followed by a voice announcing an emergency council gathering. Sarah's expression hardened instantly. That is not scheduled, she said. Something has happened. We rushed back toward the chamber, where nobles were already gathering in tense clusters. Counselor Vex stood near the center, expression carefully composed, though something about his stillness felt rehearsed rather than natural. An elder stepped forward, voice heavy. A Threll vessel has crossed into Vantiri territory, near the Halden colonies, claiming the recent bonding treaty as evidence that the Dominion is forming alliances that threaten regional balance. They demand immediate clarification, or they threaten retaliation. The room erupted into overlapping voices, some demanding immediate military response, others urging caution. Sarah stepped forward, raising her voice above the noise. This is exactly the reaction certain factions hoped for, she said, glancing pointedly toward Vex. An excuse to frame the treaty as provocation rather than protection. Vex remained composed. Perhaps the treaty is provocation, Princess. Perhaps binding yourself to an unpredictable species was reckless from the beginning. Unpredictable does not mean weak, I said, stepping beside her before I could stop myself. All eyes turned to me. You have not earned the right to speak in matters of interstellar security, Vex said coldly. Maybe not by your rules, I said, but I know something about handling unexpected situations, because that's basically been my entire day. The Threll aren't reacting to a treaty, they're reacting to fear. Fear that this alliance makes them less powerful. Fear doesn't need logic to justify a fight, it just needs an excuse. If we panic and respond with force, we hand them exactly the excuse they want. And if we do nothing? The Elder asked. Not nothing, I said. Communication. Show them the treaty isn't a threat, it's stability. Sometimes the strongest move isn't the loudest one. Sarah glanced at me, then nodded slowly, turning back to the chamber. Send a diplomatic response immediately, emphasizing peaceful intent, alongside visible strength, not aggression. Let them see confidence, not fear. The Elder considered this, then nodded. It shall be done. Vex's expression flickered, just slightly, frustration breaking through his careful mask before he composed himself again and stepped back into the crowd. Hours passed as messages were exchanged, tension slowly easing as the Threll withdrew their ships without further escalation, apparently satisfied, at least for now, by the calm and steady response. By the time the chamber finally cleared, exhaustion had settled deep into my bones. Sarah and I stood alone again on the same balcony as before, the city lights glowing softly below. You saved more than a treaty today, she said quietly. You may have prevented a war. We did that, I corrected. Not just me. She turned to face me fully. I still do not know what to make of this bond, Daniel Hargrove, but I am no longer certain it was a mistake. Same here, I said honestly. Didn't ask for any of this, but I think I'd rather face whatever comes next with you than without you. For the first time since I had woken up in this strange world, she smiled. Not a diplomatic smile, not a controlled one, but something real. Then let us see what comes next, she said, together. And as the twin moons rose over the floating city, I realized something strange. I had woken up that morning with no memory of choosing this life, no say in the bond that now defined me. But standing there, watching the light shift across her face, I understood that some choices don't need to be made in the beginning to become real. Sometimes they grow, quietly, through trial, through trust, through simply choosing, again and again, not to walk away. Nobody had asked for my answer that morning. But standing there, I finally had one anyway.